Ladies and gentlemen, we often think of abuse as something we can see, something tangible, but the most dangerous kind often hides in plain sight. It creeps into our minds, twists our perceptions, and leaves us questioning who we are. This is the insidious nature of narcissistic abuse. Tonight, I want to shed light on 8 signs that might seem small at first, but together, they paint a picture of control, manipulation, and pain. But make no mistake, understanding these signs is not a sign of defeat, it's the beginning of reclaiming your power. 1. Gaslighting. Have you ever made to feel like you're losing your grip on reality? Narcissists are experts at twisting facts, making you question your memory, your instincts, even your sanity. That's gaslighting. 2. Constant criticism disguised as help. Their words are like daggers wrapped in compliments. They'll tell you they're just trying to help, but their advice cuts you down more than it lifts you up. 3. Walking on eggshells. Every move you make feels like a test. A wrong word, a wrong look, and suddenly there's chaos. You find yourself shrinking, trying to avoid setting them off. 4. Isolation. They'll start to pull you away from the people who truly care about you. Friends, family, your support system, they all become problems in the narcissist's eyes because they threaten their control. 5. Love bombing and devaluation cycles. At first, they make you feel like you're the center of the universe. Then, without warning, you're not enough. This cycle keeps you chasing the highs and doubting the lows. 6. Lack of accountability. They will never admit they're wrong, ever. Instead, they'll flip the blame onto you, making you the villain in their narrative. 7. Conditional affection. Their love and approval come with strings attached. You're rewarded when you comply and punished when you don't. That's not love, it's control. 8. Your intuition is screaming deep down, you know something's not right. That gut feeling isn't paranoia, it's your inner wisdom trying to protect you. Now, let me tell you something important. Recognizing these signs is the first step to freedom. It's not easy to break free. They'll try to make you feel guilty when unworthy, but none of those things are true. You have a choice, and that choice starts with acknowledging the truth. From there, you rebuild. One step, one breath, one moment at a time. You reclaim your peace, your identity, your life. Because you, my friend, are stronger than any storm they throw at you. You are worthy of love, respect, and joy, unconditional and unapologetic. So tonight, let this be your reminder. You're not alone. You're not powerless. And your story is far from over. Thank you. Life has a way of presenting us with moments that define who we are. These moments may not always feel grand or triumphant. In fact, sometimes they come disguised as struggle, as confusion, or as pain. But here's the truth. Every struggle carries a choice, and every choice carries the power to transform us. Some of those choices, however, are not the ones we actively make. Instead, they seem to creep into our lives without permission. Toxic relationships, manipulation, or mistreatment, they can feel like storms that arrive unannounced. And while we may not always choose these storms, we do get to decide how we navigate through them. Let me be clear about something. No one wakes up one day and says, I want to be mistreated. I want to be controlled. I want to be broken down. That's not how life works. But sometimes we find ourselves in situations where the lines between love and manipulation blur, where the people we trust begin to take more than they give, and where we start to doubt the very instincts that are meant to protect us. It's not weakness to find yourself there, it's human. But it's also an invitation to take a step back, to reflect, and to reclaim what's yours. Your worth, your voice, your life. You see, the world will tell you a lot of things about your value. It will try to sell you the idea that it's tied to how much you achieve, how much you give, or how much you endure. But let me tell you something that doesn't come with fine print or conditions. Your value is inherent. It was there the moment you took your first breath, and it will be there long after the opinions of others fade into the background. No one gets to define it but you, and no one has the right to diminish it, no matter how convincing their words or actions may be. When you're dealing with someone who manipulates, controls, or abuses, their goal is often to make you forget this truth. They thrive on your doubt. They chip away at your confidence, your independence, your spirit, not all at once, but little by little, until you start to believe the lies they tell you about yourself. That's why recognizing these patterns is so crucial. It's not about blame, it's about clarity. It's about shining a light in the places they hope will stay dark. There's an old saying, the truth will set you free. But let me add something to that. It will also challenge you. It will force you to confront the parts of your life that don't align with who you are or who you want to be. It will demand courage, not just in seeing the truth, but in acting on it. And that's where the choice comes in. It's not always an easy one. Sometimes the choice to walk away, to stand up, to speak out, it feels like the hardest thing in the world. But what's the alternative? To stay silent? To stay small? To stay in a space where your light is constantly dimmed? Life isn't meant to be lived in the shadows of someone else's insecurities. You weren't put here to be someone else's mirror, reflecting back what they want to see. You were put here to be your own, to stand in your truth, and to shine in your unique way. That doesn't mean you won't stumble or face challenges along the way. But every time you choose yourself, every time you choose to honor your worth, you grow stronger. You take back a piece of yourself that no one can ever take away again. This isn't about being perfect. It's not about having all the answers or never making mistakes. It's about knowing that you're worth fighting for, even when it feels like the fight is uphill. It's about trusting that inner voice, the one that whispers when something isn't right, even if it's been drowned out for too long. That voice, it's yours, and it's always been there waiting for you to listen. So if you're in a space right now where the storm feels relentless, where the choices seem impossible, or where the weight of it all feels too heavy, know this: you are not alone. And this moment, as hard as it may seem, is not your final chapter. It's a stepping stone, a turning point, a chance to rise up and remind yourself of who you are. Because life will always present challenges, but within every challenge lies an opportunity. An opportunity to grow, to heal, and to reclaim the power that's always been yours. So take that step, make that choice, and trust that on the other side of it is a version of you that's stronger, braver, and more resilient than ever before. You are not here by accident. You are not some random occurrence, drifting through life without purpose or meaning. You were created with intention, with value, and with a light that is uniquely yours. Yet there are forces in this world, sometimes people we least expect, that try to dim that light. They may tell you that you are less than, that you're not enough, or that you need to shrink yourself to fit into their expectations. But let me remind you of something undeniable. You are more powerful than you realize, and your worth is not up for debate. When you encounter someone who tries to strip away your sense of self, it can feel like they're holding a mirror up to you, but the reflection they're showing isn't real. It's distorted by their own fears, insecurities, and need for control. They project their pain onto you, hoping you'll believe it's yours. And if you let that image settle into your mind, it can be easy to start questioning yourself. You may wonder if they're right, if you're the problem, if you're asking for too much by wanting to be seen, heard, and loved as you are. Let me stop you right there. You are not too much. You are not a burden. And you are certainly not unworthy. Those are lies carefully crafted by someone who benefits from keeping you in a state of doubt. The truth is, their behavior says far more about them than it ever could about you. Their need to tear you down comes from a place of their own inadequacy. But here's where the power lies. It's up to you whether you internalize their words or reject them outright. Now, I know that's easier said than done. When someone chips away at your confidence, it doesn't always happen overnight. It's a slow process, like water eroding stone. A comment here, a dismissal there, a subtle disregard for your feelings or boundaries. And before you know it, you're carrying the weight of their words, thinking they must hold some truth. But I need you to understand this: their words are not truth. The truth is in how you feel when you're being treated with kindness, respect, and love. It's in the sense of peace and safety that comes from being valued, not diminished. You see, people who try to make you feel small do so because they fear your power. They recognize something in you, your light, your strength, your potential, and it terrifies them because it exposes their own shortcomings. So they do what they can to dim that light, to make you doubt that strength, to convince you that you don't have what it takes to stand on your own. But here's the thing about light: it's not easily extinguished. Even in the darkest of times, even when it feels like all hope is lost, that light within you still burns. It's waiting for you to fan the flame and let it shine again. The first step to reclaiming your light is remembering who you are. You are not defined by someone else's opinion of you. You are not the sum of your mistakes or shortcomings. You are a whole person deserving of love and respect just as you are. And the moment you start to believe that, truly believe it, is the moment things begin to change. Because once you see your worth, it becomes harder for anyone else to convince you otherwise. That doesn't mean the journey will be easy. Walking away from someone who tries to diminish you, whether it's a partner, a friend, or even a family member, can be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. They may try to pull you back, to manipulate you, to make you feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. But here's what you need to hold on to. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It's necessary. It's how you protect your peace, your joy, and your sense of self. And when you start to set boundaries, when you begin to stand firm in who you are, something incredible happens. You attract people who respect those boundaries, who uplift you, who see your light and celebrate it, rather than trying to snuff it out. These are the people who will remind you of your worth when you forget, who will encourage you to keep growing, and who will love you unconditionally. So if you've been made to feel small, know this: the power to rise above it is already within you. You don't need anyone's permission to take back your life. You don't need their validation to know you're enough. What you need is to trust yourself, to listen to that quiet voice inside that says, you deserve better, and to take one step at a time toward the life you were meant to live. You are strong, even when you feel weak. You are worthy, even when someone tries to convince you otherwise. And you are enough today, tomorrow, and always. Don't let anyone take that away from you. You've heard it before. Trust your gut. But how often do we actually listen to it? How often do we ignore the whispers of our intuition because we're afraid of being wrong, or because we don't want to upset the balance, or simply because we don't think we have the right to trust ourselves? The truth is, your intuition is one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal. It's the inner compass that can guide you when the road seems unclear, and it's there for a reason. But when you're dealing with someone who thrives on control, manipulation, and gaslighting, that voice becomes harder and harder to hear. They'll make you doubt your own thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. They'll try to convince you that what you know in your heart isn't real, and in doing so, they create a world where you're always questioning yourself. It's subtle at first. They'll twist things just enough to make you second guess. You'll walk away from a conversation feeling uneasy, unsure of what was really said, or how you should have responded. They'll make comments that don't seem overtly harmful, but underneath they plant seeds of doubt. I never said that, they might say when you know perfectly well that they did. Or, you're overreacting, I was just joking, when you're left feeling dismissed and invalidated. And each time this happens, your sense of reality begins to erode. That little voice that once spoke clearly begins to fade, and soon you find yourself questioning even the simplest things. The danger here is that the longer this goes on, the more disconnected you become from yourself. You begin to lose confidence in your ability to trust your perceptions, your instincts, and even your emotions. You second-guess the things that used to be obvious to you. What was once a confident, rounded sense of knowing becomes a fragile uncertainty. And that is exactly what they want. They want to wear you down until you're unsure of yourself, until you've handed over control of your life to them. But I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your intuition is never wrong. That gut feeling, that whisper in your mind, that sense that something isn't right, it's not paranoia. And it's certainly not an overreaction. It's your inner wisdom trying to protect you. It's the part of you that knows the truth, even when it's hard to see through the fog of manipulation. Now, I know it's not always easy to trust that inner voice. When you're in a relationship, whether it's personal, professional, or even familial, and that voice is drowned out by someone else's words and actions, it's easy to lose sight of what you know to be true. You might start to believe that you're the one who's wrong, that you're the one who's being unreasonable. But I need you to understand this. It's not you. It's them. They are the ones distorting the truth, not you. And here's the thing. The more you ignore that gut feeling, the stronger it gets. It doesn't disappear, it grows. It nags at you until you finally can't ignore it anymore. It will show up as an unease in your body, a tension in your chest, a restless feeling in your mind. You'll start to feel exhausted, not because of the situation itself, but because you're fighting against your own knowing. Your body is trying to tell you something, but your mind is caught in the web they've spun around you. You need to listen to that feeling. You need to honor it. It's your internal GPS, and when it tells you that something isn't right, you need to trust it. Don't allow yourself to be manipulated into thinking that you're wrong for feeling the way you do. You don't allow someone else to convince you that your emotional responses are invalid, or that your sense of discomfort is misplaced. Trust that feeling in your gut, because it will never lead you astray. But trusting your intuition doesn't just mean recognizing that something is off. It also means taking action. It means having the courage to say, no, this isn't right, even if you don't have all the answers, and even if it feels uncomfortable. It means setting boundaries, speaking your truth, and trusting that you are strong enough to handle whatever comes next. Because once you start listening to that voice inside, you begin to reclaim your power. You start to take back control of your life, one decision at a time. This isn't easy work. It requires you to confront your fears, your doubts, and the narrative that has been imposed on you. But it's necessary. And the more you practice listening to your intuition, the stronger it becomes. You'll find that over time, it's easier to distinguish between truth and lies, between what's real and what's been twisted to serve someone else's agenda. Your intuition becomes your greatest ally in the fight for your peace, your autonomy, and your happiness. So let me tell you this, the next time something feels off, trust yourself. The next time you feel that knot in your stomach or that flutter of unease, listen to it. Your intuition has been with you from the start, guiding you, protecting you. Don't silence it. Don't doubt it. It is the voice of your truth, and it will never steer you wrong. Trust it, and watch as it leads you to the life you deserve, one of clarity, confidence, and peace. There comes a point in every individual's life when they feel like they are walking on eggshells. At first, it's subtle, just a word or an action that doesn't seem to sit right. But over time, the discomfort grows, and you start to realize that you're constantly second-guessing yourself. You're not sure what will set them off, what will cause the storm to come crashing down. You become hyper aware of every action, every word, and every gesture, trying to anticipate their mood, to avoid triggering their anger, their frustration, or their contempt. And let me tell you, this is not how anyone should live. No one should ever have to shrink themselves or hide their true selves in order to avoid someone else's volatility. When you're in a situation where you feel like you're walking on eggshells, it's a sign that you're being controlled, manipulated, or emotionally abused. You're constantly adjusting your behavior to keep the peace, to keep the other person happy, to keep them from turning their wrath onto you. And here's the problem with that. The more you shrink yourself to accommodate their emotions, the more you lose sight of who you are. Your identity becomes distorted as you bend and twist to fit into whatever mold they require. And the person you once were, the person with a voice, with passions, with dreams, begins to fade away. This is a dangerous place to be because it robs you of your autonomy. You begin to doubt your own instincts, your own preferences, your own desires. You stop trusting yourself because you've spent so much time trying to please someone else. You become trapped in a cycle of constant appeasement, living in fear of what might happen if you speak your truth, if you assert your needs, or if you disagree with them. Your peace of mind becomes contingent on their mood, and that is not a healthy dynamic. The reality is that no one should ever make you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own life. No one should ever make you feel as though you must alter your behavior just to avoid triggering their anger or disappointment. A healthy relationship, whether it's romantic, familial, or professional, should be built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. It should allow both parties to be themselves without fear of punishment, retaliation, or emotional manipulation. But when you're dealing with someone who thrives on control, they will constantly keep you guessing, leaving you in a perpetual state of uncertainty. This uncertainty eats away at your confidence, and over time, it makes you feel like you're the one who's always in the wrong. You start to believe that it's your fault, that you're the one who's being difficult or unreasonable. You may even begin to apologize for things that aren't your fault, simply to avoid conflict. This kind of emotional manipulation is incredibly damaging because it convinces you that you don't have the right to assert your boundaries, to have a voice, or to stand firm in your beliefs. But here's the truth. You are allowed to exist without fear. You are allowed to take up space. You're allowed to express yourself authentically, without wondering if your words will trigger a reaction, or if your actions will cause someone else to spiral into anger or resentment. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your needs matter, and you have the right to protect them. Walking on eggshells is not living, it's surviving. And you were made for more than just survival, you were made for thriving. If you're finding yourself in a relationship, a friendship, or a family dynamic where you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, it's time to reassess the situation. It's time to ask yourself why you're tolerating this fear-based existence, and whether it's worth sacrificing your peace for the sake of someone else's control. And let me tell you, it's never worth it. No one's mood, no one's reaction, no one's emotional volatility is worth the cost of your mental and emotional well-being. It may be difficult to recognize this, especially if you've been in this situation for a long time. You may be used to the tension, to the unease, to the constant guessing game. But when you start to recognize the pattern, that feeling of walking on eggshells, you also start to realize that it's not normal. And more importantly, it's not healthy. You deserve to be in relationships where you feel safe, supported, and free to be yourself without fear of judgment or retaliation. There's power in recognizing when something isn't right, and there's even greater power in taking action to change it. It's not about perfection, it's about authenticity. It's about standing firm in your truth, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. It's about reclaiming your space, your voice, and your peace of mind. The more you practice this, the stronger you become, and the easier it becomes to stop walking on eggshells. You are worthy of love and respect. You are worthy of peace and freedom. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Take back your power, stand tall, and let the eggshells crumble beneath your feet. You're not meant to live in fear, you're meant to live with purpose, with confidence, and with the full expression of who you are. It's time to stop shrinking. It's time to start living.